The old-timers of Willow Creek would sit silently on their porches when the autumn air turned crisp. Their eyes, hidden beneath the shadows of frayed hats, often drifted towards the dense woods at the town's edge, where the wind whispered secrets that no one dared to voice. But among these secrets, one story was quietly shared after sunset, when the younger folk were snug in their beds, the story of the vanished twins, Ellie and Bethany Carter. It was a cold October night when Ellie and Bethany walked home along the narrow forest path. The leaves underfoot crunched rhythmically as they made their way through the sprawling shadows cast by the towering pines. Their laughter echoed softly before being swallowed by the forest, as if the trees themselves were listening. Despite the familiar path, there was something unsettling in the air that night, something even the young girls could sense. "Do you think the stories are true?" Bethany asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking any louder might summon the very legends they feared. Ellie shrugged, her usually confident demeanor faltering under the pale moonlight. "They're just stories," she replied, though her pace quickened slightly. The tales of Willow Creek's cursed woods were enough to stir unease even in the most skeptical hearts. But then there was a chill, a discernible change in the air. The sisters stopped, their breath hitching as they looked around. The path, so familiar in daylight, now felt distorted, as if the forest itself had shifted. "Did you hear that?" Ellie asked, gripping Bethany's hand tightly. Bethany nodded, her wide eyes reflecting the fear that gripped her chest. There was a rustling sound, too calculated to be the wind. It came from up ahead, where the path forked, splitting into two, neither choice looking inviting under the silver light of the moon. Deciding on instinct rather than reason, they took the left path, hoping it would lead them out quicker. Their hurried footsteps echoed through the night, paralleled by an eerie chant that seemed to follow them, growing louder, as if the forest were alive, watching and waiting. Panic flooded Ellie's mind, her thoughts jumbled, only focused on escape. But then, as abruptly as the fear began, everything went silent. The chanting stopped, and the two sisters were alone in a clearing that shouldn't exist. In the middle of the clearing stood an ancient stone well, mottled with age and draped in creeping vines. They had heard of this place, the Wishing Well. Legend said it held the power to grant one's deepest desire, but at the cost of something irreplaceable. Bethany, drawn inexplicably towards it, felt the compelling pull of the unknown. Ellie tried to hold her back, but something stronger pulled Bethany forward, towards the edge. The twins' whispered names were the only sounds in the sudden stillness, echoing in soft, pleading tones. "Make a wish," a voice whispered, seemingly emanating from the well itself. The sisters, hearts pounding, looked down and saw not their reflections, but shadows of themselves, staring back with eyes that gleamed in the dark. Before Ellie could act, Bethany leaned in, almost too far, her voice barely a tremor in the void. "I wish," she began, but the words were swallowed by the darkness, disappearing into the depths. Reality snapped like brittle glass, and the world spun around the sisters. The ground trembled, sending ripples through the earth, and the shadows rose, swirling around them like a vortex. The night air screamed in silent fury as Ellie grabbed Bethany, trying to pull her back, but the unseen force was relentless. Then, in a heartbeat, it stopped. The forest was still again, too still. The sisters found themselves standing alone by the path once more, the clearing and the well gone as if they'd never existed. They exchanged a glance, the terror in their eyes a mirror of their shared experience. Wordlessly, they fled the forest, guided by a base and instinctual primal fear. When they burst out into the safety of the village, their mother found them pale and shaking at the door, their eyes hollow with dread. The village searched the woods for signs of the mysterious well, but none was ever found. As years passed, the forest claimed the path. Nature spoke in hushed tones of the sisters bound by secrets only the trees could remember. Despite everything, Ellie and Bethany seemed unchanged to outsiders. They grew up, tethered by a bond that outsiders envied but couldn't understand. Yet at night, the memory of the shadows lingered, a shadow of dread under the surface of their dreams. On rare occasions, Ellie would stand by her window staring into the forest. The trees seemed to shift under her gaze, whispering, calling her back to that elusive well. She never ventured there again, but but the sound of chanting sometimes found her no matter how far she wandered from Willow Creek. The years wore on, and gradually the memory of that night dimmed, relegated to the corners of their minds, where reality mingled uneasily with fiction. Ellie, ever cautious, grew to loathe the woods that ensnared her in endless what-ifs. One evening, curiosity overtook her caution. Drawn by an inexplicable impulse, she found herself standing at the edge of the woods again. Without realizing it, her feet led her down familiar paths, the forest parting with reluctant familiarity. The night was eerily similar, full of tension, as if it remembered her intrusion. Ellie reached the clearing. The well stood under the moonlight once more, untouched by time. Despite everything, she approached it, drawn by the unfinished business that had tortured her for years. "Why did you call me back?" she demanded, her voice echoing in the desolate space, swallowed by the well's yawning mouth. Silence followed, deeper than before, echoing through the shadows. Then it spoke, the well. It offered no answers, but only another opportunity, another chance to make a wish. Ellie hesitated, and then let out a fragile whisper that trembled in the air between life and legend. "I wish to understand." The ground quivered beneath her once more, challenging the sanity she clung to. Beneath the surface, beneath the years of living, there lay a depth of yearning that hadn't been addressed. It was then that the truth unraveled. The well did not grant wishes, it claimed them. Ellie's mind reeled with realization, understanding now that the shadows of their reflections that night weren't doppelgangers, but fragments of their souls left behind in trade. The price of her wish was a part of herself, her innocence, sacrificed to the mysterious forces at play. As Ellie stood in the clearing, the forest resumed its watchful silence, mirroring the solitude that now dwelled within her. The air was stale with lost whispers, secrets etched into the earth. Returning to the village didn't stop the haunting memories. She never spoke of that night again, not even to Bethany, who sensed something had changed, shifted within her sister. But both knew, without words, the night in the woods was not a figment of their imagination, but a lingering echo that would haunt them, a reminder of the terrifying reality within their shared wish. Years later, when the sisters had children of their own, the old path remained hidden, only known to those who dared look for it. But among the townspeople, it became another tale in a tapestry of whispered warnings, fueling the mythos of Willow Creek. In the end, the legend was true. The well was real, a passage into the darker corners of human desire, a place where wishes were both granted and consumed, leaving an emptiness that echoed in the eyes of those who dared to wish upon its dark waters. The town continued its quiet existence under the heavy breath of the woods, where children dared one another to play at the forest's edge, but never ventured too far. As for Ellie and Bethany, they lived with the memory, etched into their hearts forever, a sinister bond that what the forest gives, it also takes away.